Welcome to session 12. It's our last one.
It is.
We're going to look at some hints and tips. So these are hints and tips that Amy and I think are worthwhile. There's obviously tons out there, and depending on who you talk to, you'll get different hints and tips. But from our experience, these are just 10 points that we think are really useful if you're getting going using Agile in a team or on your own or in your organization. So Agile tip number 1 is about team size. So the Scrum Guide recommends a team of 7 plus or minus 2. So anywhere between 5 and 9 is a great size for a team. We would have to agree, and there's a couple of reasons. The main one is that you have lines of communication in a team, and the more lines of communication you have by having more people, the more context switching you have going across the team, and it gets exponentially larger in terms of those lines of communication for every extra person you have. So in essence, a smaller team, communication gets around quicker.
Yeah. I think the way to think about this is there's a reason sports teams have a certain number of people. There's a reason a football team has 11 players on the pitch and no more, because once you start getting over those numbers, it becomes ineffective. You can't have a strong relationship with that many people for that period of time. So there is a kind of a methodology behind it, and those lines of communication are really key to the success of a team, and that is why it's so important to keep team size into that kind of nice, efficient number. And
a great example is that if you have a big team, often you end up getting subgroups formed within a bigger team.
Yeah.
That's a really easy way to know that you probably need to break the team down. So keep the team small, keep it close-knit. If you've got a larger group, break it down.
Yeah. Hints and tips. Number 2 is all about avoiding building up an endless backlog. It's really easy to keep adding new items to your backlog, new ideas, new features for your product. But actually it's important to not allow that to get too long, because what you'll have is the same things that always get pushed to the very bottom. We've seen teams with backlogs that have got years worth of work on it. And the reality is you never ever look at them. And once it gets that messy and that long, you tend to not use it in the right way. So a really nice amount, you want almost anywhere between 2 and maybe 2 months worth of work. Some teams who do something called PI planning would look at 3 months worth of work, but you don't want to be going much more than that, because then you get out of the habit of responding to feedback, responding to change, and responding to what's going on in the market.
Yeah, and the more items you have, the harder things like sprint refinement become. It can feel like you've got an endless list of stuff to refine. Actually, like Amy said, it's better just to look at what's really important over the short term, clear everything else out of the way, and if it is important, it'll come back around, but keep the backlog short and neat. Hints and tips. Number 3, ensure the team celebrate their wins and celebrate their successes. I think this is really important, because if you're constantly delivering work or churning out work and never getting any thanks, it just becomes really tiring and really hard. And actually, we're human beings. We need sometimes to receive a bit of encouragement and get some praise and get a thank you. So sprint review is a great opportunity for that. Bring along some stakeholders, bring along some leaders. The chances are they're going to see some good work that's been done, and they're going to thank the team and they're going to encourage the team. If you're a scrum master or a product owner, you're at that servant leader, it's really important that you show appreciation, that you give thanks and you give recognition when it's due. That's a really important part of being a people-centric team.
Yeah. Hints and tips number 4. Promote curiosity. We really want to see curiosity in teams. We want people to ask questions. We want people to learn, and we want to create that space where people are okay to try new things and potentially get it wrong. There's things you can do around T-shaping, so people can learn each other's skills to help support each other. We can do things like swarms, where we'll take one piece of work and really focus around it for a really kind of short, sharp 3 days. We want to create a space where people are curious to learn in that new environment and continue to kind of grow as individuals as well as a team.
Hints and tips. Number 5, start with the basics and practice the fundamentals, but not at the expense of relationships. This is one that I quite like. It can be really easy, like we spoke about in the Agile Myth Busting, to go in there and implement the Scrum guides and implement the change, but actually you might have some people in your team or in your environment that aren't super receptive to change. Maybe they've been working in a certain way for a while and it's ingrained, and actually if you were to go in there and implement all this change, it could potentially really upset them, or it could cause some disruption in the team. And fundamentally, as we looked at in the principles, if you haven't got a motivated, engaged team, you're not going to get very far. So sometimes you have to compromise that sense of urgency with implementing some of this change in order to better build relationships. So a big hint here, big tip, is to go in and build those relationships first and really focus on that, and then implement change when the relationships allow for it.
Hints and tips number 6. Don't be afraid or scared of trying, and don't be afraid of failing. That's where you learn the most. And we want to see that within teams. We touched upon this earlier on, but we really want to see teams try something new. And I think that lots of teams with that fear of failure won't ever try anything new. They won't be innovative. They won't even suggest something that they want to do differently. And I think it's really important to take away that fear and say to everyone, it's okay to get it wrong. It's okay to give something a go. Actually, we'd much rather see everyone give something a go and get it wrong 10 times and then right on the 11th than not try at all. So massive hint there is, and tip is to give people the space, give people the team and the environment to allow them to do that.
Hints and tips number 7. If you're in doubt, start with a simple Kanban board. So again, thinking back to Kanban and Scrum, sometimes you get into Agile and you've got your team all ready to go and you think Scrum is going to be the way forward. And actually, it just might not work for a whole host of reasons. You might have some people that are working in your team and in another team, so you haven't got everyone sat together. You might not have a cross-functional team. You might not have people that are receptive to so much change in one go. Sometimes you just need to start with a really basic Kanban board, and it can feel almost really elementary, but it can be really effective and it can be a great thing to get started. So if you're in doubt, just list out everything that you need to do, get it prioritized, list out the stuff that you're doing at the moment or your in progress column, and then list out your done column, and just make sure you celebrate stuff when it moves into done. Make sure that you haven't got too much in progress at one time and everyone's clear on what that is. And then just make sure that your to-do list or your backlog is prioritised and everyone's clear on that priority order. That can be the best way to start operating as an effective Agile team.
Hints and tips number 8. This is about getting leadership engaged wherever possible. So what you want to see is that even if a team are making changes and they're at a certain level, the more people you can get engaged at a senior level will really help the maturity of that team. They'll help be able to learn, and ultimately we talked about giving people the space to be able to test, to learn, to fail, try new things. If you've got leadership buy-in for that, it makes a real difference, and it can happen a lot quicker. Ultimately, leaders in an organisation can be a huge blocker for team success, but also they can be a real enabler as well. So if you can get that buy-in, if you can bring the leader on the journey, much like you take the team on the journey, it can make a real difference.
And often the leaders don't understand, or they haven't even been told that the team are working in a certain way. So the leader has an agenda, they've got a strategy, it could be a very powerful strategy, and if they don't understand, they don't know that this team are using the Scrum framework, they've got these 2-week sprints. The leader can then become quite, frustrated or unaware of how the team are processing work. And something we see all the time is teams that are operating using Scrum and they've gone into a sprint, and then the leader points out something really important needs to be done, and it can interrupt the sprint cycle. And actually that leader might never have been told that this team are using Scrum, and actually they have these 2-week sprints and these are their sprint start dates and end dates. And actually with a bit of communication and a bit of buy-in, that leader can then start to work with the team on their cycle and look ahead and think, right, well, I need this done here. What do you guys think? Can you get it in? Is it high priority? And so that relationship is really important, and sometimes it's just not there. So it's really important to get leaders brought in and to educate them where possible and help them engage with the team as much as you can. Hints and tips number 9. Champion openness, honesty and trust in your team. So we've spoken about the people element of our teams today. It's really important. We live and work in an age where people are hired most of the time for their creativity, for their ability to solve complex problems. Not the same as 100 years ago where we were hired, for our hands or for our labour just to be able to move stuff along a production line in big organisations. So with these complex teams full of, really ingenious individuals, it's important that we champion a trust within teams, that we champion honesty and boldness so that teams can be, working really well together and not just working individually, and actually they can be the best they can be as a group.
Okay, hints and tips number 10. not everybody is going to feel okay with working in an agile team. And that's okay. I think it's really important to remember that some people don't want autonomy. Some people don't want to be empowered. They are okay with just being told what to do and cracking on and doing it. So when we talk about getting an engaged team and motivated individuals, it's really important to recognise that some people don't feel comfortable working in an agile way, and recognising that, talking to them about it, and figuring out what that means for them is a really important thing to do. Everybody likes to work differently, and I think to make any agile team a real success, we have to recognise that and make sure that wherever possible we're supporting how people like to work, and finding what's right for them, but ultimately what's right for the whole team.
Great, well that concludes our session on hints and tips. I hope you found it really useful. We just want to thank you for joining us for this course. We hope you found it really engaging. We hope that you found it really useful as you get going using Agile. We hope that you've got lots of stuff to take away. We'd love to stay in touch. Amy's going to tell you a bit more about our social channels.
Yes, so we're very conscious that we've covered a lot in quite a quick space of time, and there's a lot to digest and a lot to think about. So you'll see some different links dotted around. I'm sure you'll find them, but get in touch, follow our pages, because you'll find out even more information and even more ways to bring everything to life that we've spoken about today. And we'd love to hear from you and find out what's going on and how you're finding using Agile and trying it in your everyday life and where you work.
And don't forget that on agileavengers.com we've got tons of resources. We've got sprint retrospective ideas, icebreakers, we've got blogs. So anything you need really to get going, you can probably find on our website. Sometimes you just need a bit of inspiration. That's why we start Agile Avengers. So head on over there and we're sure that you'll find what you need to get going with your Agile teams.